Rob Leidick with Wavelengths, and today is the first in our series of pulling the curtain back on the traps that can be laid for an end user or an integrator in making decisions on what access control system to use, what components you can use, and how the whole thing functions. Step one, we're going to talk about the credential. The physical credential, whether it be a piece of plastic or a key fob or even a mobile or wallet credential, and the decisions that can be made for you as an end user or an integrator that you didn't actually realize. So let's start with a physical credential. Did you understand that this physical credential can actually make all the decisions on what you can use in an access control system, starting with the credential, the physical card reader, electronic locks, the actual panels that can be used, the software you can actually use? It all starts with a piece of plastic. And many customers have found themselves in a trap that they didn't know existed. They just had their integrator provide them cards. And that integrator, either unknowingly or knowingly, went and bought from a manufacturer that tied that customer to specific hardware manufacturers from there on out. And there's no escape from it unless you replace the physical card. And I talk to hundreds of end users every month that have come to the realization that they're stuck, they're trapped, and they can't move. So let's talk about the 5 types of credentials that you as an end user or an integrator can get. And let's talk about the 3 questions you can ask to prevent yourself from being trapped. The most common model of a physical credential is one provided from a specific manufacturer that can only be procured from that manufacturer and also ties to a specific piece of hardware. There's a couple of different manufacturers that do this, and as an end user, you can't select any other hardware. It forces you to buy their readers, it forces you to buy their cards, it forces you to buy their lock manufacturer, it forces you to buy specific access control. Unfortunately, this is the most common strategy deployed in the access control industry, and people unknowingly say, just get me some plastic cards, and that plastic card made all the decisions for them moving forward. The second strategy of the access control world was a access control software manufacturer going to a specific hardware manufacturer and saying, hey, can you OEM plastic cards and or readers to us? Those customers will stay only on our platform and we'll keep them that way just with a credential. The third is a integrator that would go to a manufacturer and say, will you manufacture cards and or readers for us that only we can provide as an integrator? And I've run into a number of those recently where the end customer wanted to select a different integrator, or that integrator is no longer in business and they find themselves in a pretty bad situation where they now have to go re-credential their respective employee body and replace hardware along the way. The fourth scenario is one that I find to be the best, and that is an open and interoperable standard of physical credentials, led, quite frankly, by a very large company called NXP that provides a technology called MIFARE DESFire. And that allows for an open and interoperable standard. However, most manufacturers try and trap people into that, and there's a way around it. And that way around it is a standards-based, open and interoperable credential that leverages the MIFARE DESFire ecosystem. It's commonly in the industry, you'll see it as LEAF. That's a standard that's been adopted by a wide range of manufacturers and keeps the credential exceptionally secure. It can use any respective reader, it can use any electronic lock, it can be read by nearly all access control software manufacturers, inclusive of their panels or other things that they have in their ecosystem. That works for small to medium business. It also works for large enterprises. The credential is secure. It can be used across any litany of hardware that they may have, whether it be access control readers, print readers, logical access control readers, or even readers in an elevator. And the last and the fifth strategy that is available to end users is actually, for an enterprise customer, the absolute best. And that is the end user can have their own credential that has their own specific key set that they own. It's not owned by the manufacturer. It's not owned by the integrator. It is a key set and a credential for that specific end user. Now, that end user can serve as the custodian and share that amongst multiple manufacturers. They can also manage it with a third party. They could have manufacturers like Wavelength serve as custodian to keep it really secure and share that in an open manner as well. But that is the fifth option. So let's talk about the three questions that you should ask as an end user or an integrator or a consultant to understand and go in eyes wide open of what type of credential ecosystem are you joining. Number one strategy and question you should ask is my credential owned by the manufacturer or the integrator, and can I use other hardwares with this? Or am I simply limited to one manufacturer providing that credential or one manufacturer providing that respective reader and the other hardwares that go along with that? The second question you can ask is, if you are an enterprise customer, I just mentioned it as step 5, demand your own credential. Demand your own key set that you own. It's available. There's hundreds of large enterprise end users that are using this every day, and they're not trapped into any manufacturer or any integrator. And that is something you can absolutely ask for. And the third is going back to that open and interoperable standards such as Leaf. And that is, you can ask in writing, is this credential and the reader and the access control system accommodating of that open and interoperable standard? So hopefully in this video you've been able to see there are 5 different ways behind the curtain that manufacturers and integrators and others deploy to lock customers in. There are strategies to get unlocked. There are also questions that you can ask on how you can go into any decision eyes wide open, and maybe you decide to go down that path of one manufacturer providing everything to you and the respective downstream effects of that. But you're going to go into that eyes wide open versus, hey, I got provided a bunch of cards. I didn't know I got trapped, and what do you know? I can't get the product because it's in a supply chain problem, or I didn't realize I was stuck only buying from one supplier. Hope this is helpful. Please comment below, add your questions, add your comments, and share it in your network. I am particularly grateful for the 30,000 plus views that I get on these videos, and I hope that it continue to grow and reach an even broader audience on our global basis. Thanks again, Rob Leidick with Wavelengths.